Thanks for joining us. I'm Nancy Furness, and this is We've Got Issues. We're filming today at City Centre Library in Coquitlam, and we are on the unceded traditional ancestral territory of Coquitlam First Nation. Today I'm joined by folks from Low Entropy, which is an organization which enhances the social and economic well-being of vulnerable individuals within our community. So today I'm joined by Vanessa Wadesky, who is the co-executive director, Roger, who is an outreach peer support worker, and Ed Hall from Coquitlam First Nations. So thank you everyone for joining us today. And Ed, would you like to say a few words?
I swale is hapoel, hapil med hall tonasqui talitsen akqui quiklum tama. Ossiam to see it's eaten altany machnet in ami sep, quilum eaten quikolkum tama, shared by others. Good day, how are you all? Hapil is my traditional name, Ed Hall is my English given name. I've given you a traditional welcome and introduction. Welcome to the ancestral and cedar lands of the Quikolkum people, shared by many, and we are here today at the City Centre Library. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ed, and thank you everyone for joining us today. You recently had an event called the Homeless Community Forum, and I believe it was the first time you've held this event, and the goal was to brainstorm some solutions to look at how we can house and support the homeless community. So I was wondering, maybe Vanessa, can we start with you and tell us a little bit about what the event was all about?
Yeah, thank you for the question. Absolutely. We had opened it up to the entire community of the Tri-Cities to bring folks together that could identify what are some creative, innovative solutions in order for us to support our unhoused friends in the Tri-Cities. So we had 80 people come out everywhere from our unhoused friends. We had a few unhoused folks come, and our frontline staff were there from other organizations too. Spirit of the Children, a lot of their staff members were there. We had some city councilors, school board trustees. So we had just so many different people come together to really show their community support and address this pressing need, because the numbers continue to rise in the Tri-Cities. Currently we're at 160 unhoused people in the Tri-Cities. So it shows us that we really need to come together and find some meaningful solutions. It can't be done in silos. We have to work together as a community. Yeah.
Well, thank you. And as you mentioned, homelessness is on the rise, and it's a concern for sure. Can you talk about some of the brainstorming that went on? Like, what were some of the ideas?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so what we did is we had people go into breakout groups, and then within their breakout groups, folks would brainstorm, how can we support our unhoused friends? And they selected the top 3 solutions through each of the groups, and then we wrote those all up on the board, and we voted for what are the top 3 solutions that we can really focus in on. And the top solution that came up was to establish a community hub that has facilities for our unhoused friends to access, such as showers and laundry service. So that was the number 1 solution. The next one was mental health support, and the other one was affordable housing options.
So 3 really important components that need really to go together, right?
Yeah.
So I was surprised recently to find out that there are no shower facilities in some of our communities, and that people who are unhoused are actually asked to go to another community in order to, carry out basic hygiene, which is something that I think definitely can and should be addressed. I know, Ed, you've been recently appointed as chair of the board. Can you tell us a little bit about your thoughts on the forum?
I thought the forum was really, really nicely done, and there's some good brainstorming ideas that have come out of it. I can definitely understand, how we need to come together and do more of these kinds of, jobs and things to help people get their dignity back, to be able to have showering facilities and whatnot too. I mean, how good do we all feel when we hit the showers and the baths and whatnot and go for swims and everything, and then come out of the water, we just feel totally refreshed. Housing. I mean, I personally have actually thought about, for big investors that are even international, if they want to come and do things in our areas, maybe they can set aside monies through mutual agreements for the host area and their representatives and the ones who want to come here to maybe also that helps set up some funds that we can access and to be able to create these kinds of facilities that would actually help in the housing being addressed and just things like that. It's not really rocket science. It's just a matter of people just thinking outside the box and bringing it all together and having the right players at the table there to make these decisions and I know the that different levels of government have to be participating in some ways, but there's other parts of these kinds of initiatives too that they don't want to get themselves involved in, and so that's the way. It's just got to be able to try and think outside that and see what we can come up with, and I'm sure there's solutions. Just have to think it and act upon it. Action's much louder than words.
I think you're right. Thinking outside the box is sometimes something that we are forced to do. There is responsibility at all three levels of government, as you mentioned. We recently did an interview with Reverend David Cathcart from Trinity United Church, and they're doing a big social housing project coming forward, and they had talked about many of the same things that you had mentioned about having facilities, having a community hub. So there's reaching out to different partners as well. Are you working with any partners, or are you still looking for partners, or?
Yeah, we are. We're always looking for partners. Chief Ed and I actually spoke with the Reverend. He was very kind and is very open to, when they do the affordable housing, potentially dedicating a floor for Indigenous housing, which is great to hear. Also open to the idea of having a friendship center, which we desperately need in the Tri-Cities because there's no friendship center here, New West, Burnaby, in this whole area, Pitt Meadows, Maple Ridge, there's nothing here for Indigenous. So we definitely need something like that and are always open to collaborating and working with new community partners. I know that in this space currently, the Tri-Cities Housing and Homelessness Task Force Group have been huge advocates, and they are doing an amazing job. I'm really, really thankful for the work that they're doing because they have a lot of the pieces we need to be able to see, and I would love to be able to collaborate with them as well.
Well, I think already you're doing such valuable work bringing all these different people together to have these conversations, because it's not an easy solution, right? It's a complex situation. And I think we have Roger here with us today. Did you want to talk a little bit? Roger, you're an outreach peer support worker.
Yeah.
Can you share anything with us?
I stay out of the politics. I let Chief Ed and Vanessa and everyone else deal with that. But the frustration on the front line, the lack of resources compared to some of the larger cities. I've worked in Surrey, I've worked at downtown East Side. The resources there are so abundant compared to the Tri-Cities. So to be able to help our unhoused friends with basic necessities like you had mentioned, with the showers, with laundry facilities, we are trying to partner up with corporations and businesses to accomplish that. Like Chief Ed had said, you feel so much better after a shower clean, and it gives them a sense of dignity. Even simple things as food. There is a purpose van out in the area that they can reach out to, but the limited times, 5 p.m. to midnight, the struggles that our friends have is the access to phones. Because you have to give your location, text or phone your location to have them come and meet you. These other accesses in other communities for hubs, it's a transportation issue. Some of us, we all have our personal vehicles, which we can accommodate, but it's finding the facilities out here and getting the funding and to do such. There are so many wonderful people out there, and I've been in that situation. I've been homeless myself. I've fought addiction with alcohol, so I can relate on that level, which makes it a little easier to communicate with them. But it is very frustrating with the resources that we have, but my job is very rewarding too. So.
Yeah, well, thank you for those words. I think you have really clearly identified some barriers that, some of us take for granted, like our phones or getting in your car and going somewhere, that these really do present huge barriers.
It does, and I think also too is educating the public. Not just when I'm out there dealing with our unhoused friends. I reach out to enforcement, whether it be the RCMP, whether it be bylaws, but day-to-day people and educating them. That's part of my job as well, and I think it goes a long way with the community understanding the situation that we're going through, and that these aren't bad people. They're not all addicts. We all have struggles, and they're just caught in a bad situation, which I wish we could help everybody, and that's the frustrating part, because you can't, and it's a struggle without that funding, without support.
Can I just comment on what Roger just said? And yeah, that's the preconceived notion, is that, actually we had our tent out earlier this week. We had our outreach tent out, and we had our first person, a NIMBY person, come and say, that's a waste of tax dollars and you shouldn't be here. The homeless, they choose to be homeless, it's their fault. Which me and Roger weren't there. We heard from our staff, but we were like, we wish we were there to actually hear that and speak with this person, because that's not the case. And in fact, these aren't their tax dollars. We generate the revenue for this program through our store. So it's not his tax dollars. He doesn't have the correct information, first of all. Secondly, not all the people who are unhoused are drug addicts. I would just about 30 minutes ago, actually, I came across one of our unhoused friends sitting here in the library. And I went up to him, introduced myself, and he goes, just so you know, I live on the streets and I'm not addicted to drugs. That was the first thing he said to me. And I go, oh, neither am I. And then we sat down, had a conversation, and he shared his story around the reason that he's unhoused is because he was living somewhere for 11 years, and over COVID, they kicked him out. And he didn't have the funds to now pay $3,000 a month. So everyone has a story, and it's really up to our community to sit down and get to know our unhoused friends and not just judge them.
No, I think you're absolutely right. And I think that for drug-addicted population, there are so many supports that do need to be put in place for them, and we have a responsibility. But there is also that other segment of the population that is like one paycheck away or just living on the edge. And we're all, most of us, or maybe not most of us, but at least some of us have been in that position at some point during our lives. So it's an easy, an easy move from having a home to being homeless. And I think the other thing that I just want to follow up on, if we can circle back a bit, is resources. So we're talking about every level of government has a responsibility. Where are these resources going to come from? Roger, you had talked about Surrey and Vancouver having so many more resources. Are these municipal resources that you're talking about?
I guess to some extent, but a lot of it is the community, whether they're donating or a minimal fee for, say, cold weather shelters, winter shelters. Surrey Urban Mission is all, it's all self-supporting. It's there is a little funding, but now the homeless population from Tri-Cities to Surrey to Vancouver is minimal compared to those municipalities, but for the population in this, it's still very high. But the lack of resources, whether it's the Indigenous, there are so many Indigenous resources and centers that people can go to in Vancouver.
Right.
There aren't any out here in the Tri-Cities. I shouldn't say it's very minimal.
I think the only one that I'm really aware of is Spirit of the Children, who does really good work. But There's so much more opportunity out there, so many more things that could be done. Can you just remind us again, Vanessa, of those 3 main brainstorming solutions that
the community identified, whether the community hub that has facilities for our unhoused friends to access, and mental health support, as well as affordable housing options.
Okay. So can I ask all of you, what are the next steps? Where do we go from here?
Chief Ed? What are the next steps? That's a big question.
It's a tough.
I guess we just wait it out a little bit and just keep active, in our pursuits here. But at the same time, see if this is, falling on good ears, or if it's going to be on deaf ears when people are catching these videos, and hopefully, maybe people are talking to other people and all of their connections and whatnot, and I'm sure there's probably going to be ways that people can contribute somehow or another, even if they're just sharing the message along to, maybe it'll land at the right persons, and hopefully, that'll work. So.
Yeah. It takes the community to get involved, right? We have to all work together. So we are doing a training in the library next Tuesday. We're training folks how to do outreach, how to do what we do, to sit down and start conversations with unhoused friends, get to know them, learn their stories, see how you can help if they want their help. So there's that. We had lunch with Mayor West last week, and one of the questions we asked him was, what do you think is the solution, Mayor West, to ending homelessness in the Tri-Cities? And he replied with, well, it's a complicated issue. And one of the first things we need to do is increase income assistance, right? Because then it levels out the playing field. Because $500 a month, that's what income assistance is right now, or $550, I think it is. Yeah, you can't, what can you do $550? You can't even rent a room in the Tri-Cities for $550, let alone get your groceries, get your bus passes, and all the things you need to take care of yourself. So definitely need to increase income assistance. So how do we do that? I think it's important, like Roger was saying, to educate the public, educate the community, and educate those who are the vulnerable population who would benefit the most from these services. If we increased income assistance, it would directly benefit our vulnerable population. So when we're meeting with them, we have boots on the ground and we're connecting with them, we can share that message along, and we can do so much, but together as a community, we can do a lot, right? So if the more people who are involved, the more of an impact we can have.
So are there people out there that wouldn't even have that $500 or $550 a month? Are there people out there that are not getting access to anything?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the way the system works is if you are unhoused, you still get $50 towards a rent portion, and then your basic cost of living. Now we're just talking basic income assistance, not disability or PWD, of $575, I believe. The maximum rent is $500 for a single individual, which nobody you can't find anything for that. And speaking to my friends out there, of course, housing or some sort of shelter is a big issue, but you'd be amazed that it's the simple things like, where can I do my laundry? Where can I get a haircut? Where the community centers, the recreational centers around the community have been so supportive with letting our unhoused friends use the shower facilities over there. Between Port Coquitlam and Coquitlam, it's been phenomenal. We go around and give them little care packages of soap, toothbrush, toothpaste, which all comes from donations from private individuals, which is more than appreciative. But yeah, you would think that housing would be number one for them, and it is, but it's not their main concern. It's getting cleaned up and feeling good about themselves and getting clothes. Simple things that we take for granted.
Well, that's good to know that there's support from the municipalities. So a person who is homeless can go in and have a shower at any public community center in the Tri-Cities? Okay, so that's good to know that at least that facility is available to them, and it's getting the information out there and sharing with them what resources are available. So I think you're doing wonderful work. It's tough, and it's wonderful to have people come together like this from different perspectives and share information. So, are there any last words you'd like to share? How can people get involved?
I mean, the same message as last time was like, you can make a difference, right? You really can. Everybody can make a difference. Everybody has that potential to make a huge difference, even if it's just sitting down and learning someone's story. People are fascinating. Just like I said a half an hour ago when I sat down with my new friend and learned his story, he said, I'm choosing to be unhoused. I'm like, well, where are you staying? He's like, I'm not going to tell you. I'm like, don't worry, we're not going to take it down. He's like, okay, fine. And then he showed me his video, and it's like out in the forest, and he made this like tarp, and he's like, it's covered up, and he's proud of that, right? And he chooses to do that for himself. And what he's looking for is kindness. Then he went on to tell me a story of how people were kind to him, and that really lifted his day. So that makes a huge difference, just taking the time to connect with somebody.
Yeah, so I think you go back to that compassion.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's the stigma. It would go a long way if an individual walked by and just handed one of our friends a cup of coffee and asked, how are they doing? You'd be amazed, just to put a smile on their face. I try and, when I communicate with them and have discussions and listen, I always try and make them smile before I leave, whether it's a small joke or it does go a long way. A simple cup of coffee, a muffin, it doesn't have to be elaborate. And just to have that compassion and empathy and be an ear, even if it's for 2 minutes, goes a long way.
No, it's good. It's a good reminder that it's something that we can all do, right? Just take that minute and say hello and, maybe provide a cup of coffee and listen to a story. So definitely so much more we can do out here. Ed, did you have any last words before we wrap up?
Sure. Yes, everybody can do their part. I like what Roger has said about, the coffee and the muffin. I too, sometimes I'll see people on the median, up at a big intersection, whatnot too. And if I happen to have a $5 bill so they can get, a light snack and, a hot beverage there, because who knows how many hours they've been out there and, under different elements. And, it's just a little step in the right direction anyways. I'm not trying to enable someone to, go and do whatever it is, that they might want to do, but, when they raise little funds. But, yeah, just doing every little part here and there is, as much as possible, and hoping that you can, be a good example to somebody else in your circles, to be able to also, replicate that. Those little gestures will go a long way. And, it's not hard to do, And, yeah, that, I speak from that too, because I do have little experiences through my younger times and whatnot too, where not everything was fully available and whatnot too. So I come from experience myself, and I know what it's like, and yeah, to be able to just have some compassion and just pay it forward what happened back then, got some help, just keep moving along, and and hopefully a lot of other people will replicate that too, and hopefully, the message will get out there, and it'll be loud and clear, and maybe we will, as the time goes, get some bigger solutions that'll make everybody happy. Thank you.
Thank you. And last question for you, Vanessa. How can people contact you if they wanted to become involved?
Yeah, absolutely. They can connect with us at lowentropy.org, or they can reach out to us at info@lowentropy.org.
Okay, well, thank you so much for joining us today, and thank you to the folks from Low Entropy. We've been talking to Ed Hall from Coquitlam First Nation, who is chair of the board, Vanessa Wadesky, who is the co-executive director, and Roger, who is a community outreach peer support worker. So thanks for joining us, and we look forward to hearing more from Low Entropy.
Thank you.
Thank you.
For those viewers who were unable to attend the community forum, here's a look at some of the community feedback.
The number one thing that we talked about was having a daytime service hub available for people who need that ability to use a phone to get a shower, to do their laundry, to just be safe and warm and protected from the elements during the day. And that kind of underneath that was having access to phones reliably. And even if there was somewhere that people could go in where there was like a phone, like a landline, and they could use that landline, it would be enormously helpful to them. I know that all of the teams that go out on the street, we are all like trying to get people access to phones, but sometimes we're a little bit behind. So what we do is we're like, hey, do you need access to your phone? We'll come back. And then we lose connection with that person. If we could be responsive and have a phone when we were going out there and we could do it like right there, right then, that would be much more helpful to people in case connection is lost between one shift and the next.
Who hears 1,000 phones in your pocket though? Who hears a couple hundred phones in your pocket though?
But we could carry 3,
Yeah,
right? We could carry 3. So we can't solve every problem, but we can at least be better at solving the ones that we got. And then definitely the third one was increasing the training for staff at shelters.
So our first one, our number one was like a legal campground that would have showers and a place to live without any barriers. Number 2 was mental health support for us. I mean, this isn't easy. I mean, there's short-term, long-term, and case-by-case scenarios. So, and then this is where you get mad at us because we have a tie for 3 different ones for number 3. Between legal support, community education for the end of the stigma, and what was our other third one? Oh, it's safe housing for women and youth. So, I mean, it's not easy to narrow them down, but that's what we did on a democratic vote.
Community hub was first. Second was an emergency homeless plan to do something immediate. And then it's awesome that these guys, we had the same idea of, I've suggested it before, and some people in the task group will know that I've suggested it before, but there's a campsite, Caribou Trail RV park, and there's all kinds of RVs for sale because people bought them during COVID and now they aren't really into it. I think we should get BC Housing, and I've suggested to Frank Tick at BC Housing to buy 50 RVs, put them down there. It's not perfect, and I'd want to know what some of the, you said there was homeless individuals in here, but without them identifying themselves, like maybe they can email me and say what they think of that idea, because there's showers there, central showers there, and hot water, and it's just a roof. It's a temporary solution, but it's not perfect, but it's something that maybe we need to come together on something like this, and you want to come out of this room today with a solution, say, hey, maybe here's something we can get behind on. So we were a community hub, emergency homeless plan, housing first, trailers, BC Housing, and then again with mental health support. So
hub kind of thing.
Yeah.
With laundry, showers, kitchens, more staff to staff places so that you can have a full complement and there's space for everybody. We also said peer support, have peer support workers on, and we said cultural training for staff as well. And then just housing is like, it seems the obvious one, right? But more of it.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
It'd be nice to actually have like more nonprofits have those opportunities to have lots of funding for housing support workers and also housing advocates as well. A lot of our success stories where we've housed a lot of all our clients from our Indigenous communities is because of the help of the support workers that actually have, go all in and go above and beyond to help them make sure that they find a new home. But I feel like it's still a drop in the bucket compared to to how big this population is. So we really strongly feel that having more job opportunities and to hire qualified support workers and even advocates to help these clients in need would be very, very helpful in order for them to increase their chances to find a home, especially whether it be BC Housing or market housing. We just need more of that. It would be great to grow an army and for all nonprofits across town. So that's one idea. The other one that we do find, just from our experiences too, just from looking at even BC 211's shelter listings, there's not a whole lot of shelters for single father families. And we really feel like, even just in general, even like single parent families or just families in general, we need more of that. And this even goes to what Lori was talking about earlier. So thank you so much for sharing your story, Lori. One of the ideas that came to mind too is having more affordable homes, like modular homes, co-op, etc., to increase wait lists. And the reasons we were thinking, besides because Vancouver's really populated. It's like super populated. There's so many, it's almost overpopulated, I would say. So we thought about ideas, even like looking to the suburbs. So we thought about Richmond, North Vancouver, Tri-Cities, or anywhere else the areas that you don't really hear too often about. Langley, right? White Rock. You always see the news about Vancouver, Lower Mainland, right? East Van and everything like that. Just from my personal observation, even though I don't watch the news too often, you don't hear too much about places in those far places that still has a really great tight community, but we need more resources out there too, including available homes for those in need.
This here, like seeing this as a community, us coming together as a community, gives me so much hope for all women, men, families. So that being said, number one is respectfully consulting the unhomed to see if they would like to be a part of the process, which it looks like we're doing today, which is great. So more of that. And then just to go off the medical or the community hub, which has already been spoken about, but we also sort of talked about like a sports facility, which offers activities and wellness and connections. And then number 3 would be reducing barriers. So yeah, a big one, of course, again, is like within the community, not having to move people out of their community. And then also things like pet friendly, like, a lot of folks are already facing so many barriers. And then when you have a dog or a cat, like that makes it so much more difficult. So these places need to be pet friendly, inclusive to, mental health, substance use, whatever that looks like. So it was really hard to narrow these down. You had like so much good stuff here. So I don't know, I just have a lot of hope. So thanks.
We talked about the community hub, just to maintain communication and enable people to access online resources. We also spoke about the need for community economic activity, basically trying to make sure that a community or a gathering hub, community hub isn't just a rotating door, but somewhere that people can root and actually be active with each other and build up economically. It's part of having a livable community. We also were concerned about the government and individual funding, ongoing funding, how to be able to preserve these types of things. Because as many of us know, funding can be at the leisure of whoever's in power at that time. Ultimately, how do we do this long term to make our communities better for everybody, not just people who can afford to have a home or are well off.
So community hub, more housing, and mental health support services. So these are the top 3 solutions that we've come up with as a community. Our goal is to facilitate monthly sessions like this, and then create an action plan to actually implement this work. Okay, so you'll have to stay tuned, because what we're going to do is gather all this information. If you put your contact info on the sheet, we will be emailing notes from today, and then we will be sending out the next steps for when we'll get together again to actually drill this down.
Thank you, everyone.